In part one, we went over a brief history of Elaine Chao and her family and her relationship to Mitch McConnell. We then looked at Parag Khanna's book, Connectography, Mapping the Future of Global Civilization. I then explained to you, using Parag Khanna's book, what's going to happen in the future with infrastructure, with energy, water, and broadband, in particular here in the United States. Then I showed you about the Chinese social credit system. I finally ended up the video saying that we're going to talk more about Russia, China, InfraGard, and Jade Helm and how all this is mixed in. And we're going to do that. So let's get started here, folks. Well, first things first, I love to point out a suck up, and that's what we're going to look at. When Elaine Chao stated in this interview that foreign money was going to be used for the public-private partnership infrastructure building in America, Hannity tried to bail her out. Let's listen to this.
Well, so maybe, if I'm hearing you properly, maybe what you're saying is that, for example, if a company were to rebuild a road, they might get their investment back by, say, having a toll on that road, and this way the taxpayers don't pay a penny, they make a profit, it's a win-win, something like that?
Yes, thank you for putting it that way.
Yes, that's great. How awesome. I'll pay my taxes more and more every year, in fact, and then I'll have a foreign company come over here and charge me a toll for building a bridge or a road, and if it's torn up, tough luck for me. I'll still have to pay the toll, and they can charge me as much as they want to cross it. Yes, win-win, right, Hannity? Well, the reason that Hannity said that is because good old Chairman Chao was the director of News Corp from 2012 till present. Would you look at that? Guess who News Corp owns, guys? Yes, Fox News. Wouldn't you know it? She was on a lot of boards until she took this new transportation secretary position. And we will go over that in another video, because between her and her family, they have a massive amount of contacts. But for right now, we have to go to the UN and their Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 of them, you know. This is from September 9, 2015. Why infrastructure is key to the success of Sustainable Development Goals. Population growth, migration, and urbanization trends demand an increase in infrastructure development, especially in emerging economies and developing countries. And we'll go down here and look at the goals, and they haven't changed a bit. So we'll go Sustainable Development Goal number 9. Build resilient infrastructure. Promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation is the most direct call for increased investment in sustainable infrastructure, but implicitly, infrastructure development will also play an important role in many other sustainable development goals. Number 1, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. In other words, spread communism throughout the globe. And good infrastructure is needed to provide this resilience. End hunger, achieve food security, and increase investment for rural infrastructure, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, and promote lifelong learning opportunities. And that demands the construction and upgrading of learning facilities, achieve gender equality, and empower all women's rights. And we need infrastructure for that, for the social protection, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And that takes careful infrastructure planning. So you'll see that each and every one of these steps includes infrastructure. And I'm going to show you the people that are going to be building the infrastructure is China. China is planning the building of infrastructure all around the globe, and they're doing it right now. They have been doing it. You just don't know about it. So this right here, these Sustainable Development Goals, look as though they have been written by the Chinese. You know, which brings us to Chinese wants to build a $50 trillion global wind and solar power grid by 2050. And this is not a joke. This is from April 4th, 2016. And China's Global Energy Interconnection Development and Cooperation Organization has a strategic plan. Their short-term target by 2020 is power interconnection, generally strengthen domestic power grid interconnection in each country, greatly improve the capacity and intelligent level of the grid in resource allocation, promote the construction of key transnational transmission channel within each continent. The medium-term target, power interconnection, realize intercontinental grid interconnection within each continent so as to optimize large-scale allocation of clean energy across wide areas and with high efficiency. And their long-term target by 2050, power interconnection, construct intercontinental UHV backbone grid, realize transcontinental and transnational grid interconnection, and basically complete the global energy interconnection. Basically set up global regulation and control system and power transaction market. And there you have it, the global control system. Well, you may be saying, so what? Public-private partnerships may be a good thing. Well, let's have a little look-see at this. Smart Cities and Communities Federal Strategic Plan, exploring innovation together. Now on page 11 here it says recent reports have noted that nations around the world are racing to transform their cities and communities and reap the economic and social benefits that smart cities and communities promise, including skilled job creation, new products and services, and global trade and investment opportunities. The fourth goal, therefore, recognizes an important federal role and interest in the global smart city community technology marketplace. So let's look at what has happened to us, and I believe this is all over the globe as well. In the last 8 years, we have lost our jobs. Many of us have. Many people are on food stamps. Many people are underworked. Many people have to have 2-3 jobs. So what are they doing now? Now, after 8 years of suffering, you need work, you need a job. Now they're going to give it to you. And this job is going to be under the guise of public-private partnerships, and you're going to work on the infrastructure. And this infrastructure is going to be the infrastructure that watches every single thing that you do and is connected to a system to where they, the government or NGO, can control your water, your heat, your air conditioning, everything, your internet, your phone, all of that. This is a big deal. And they want to have it implemented. They want each nation connected within itself by 2020. And by 2050, they're going to have a global energy interconnection. Yes, the whole globe will be interconnected. And here's the awesome thing about it. Well, awesome for China is building infrastructure all over the globe in exchange for their energy, their oil, their uranium, everything, all of their natural resources. So what's going to happen in the end? China is going to be up on top. China has been building infrastructure in Pakistan for energy, and this is from 2007. This is not anything new. In Iran, China's building infrastructure in exchange for energy. Now, China's been building in Africa for quite some time now in exchange for energy. In Latin America, China has been, actually for the past few years, working on agreements and building infrastructure in exchange for energy in Ecuador, Peru, Chile, and many other Central and South American countries, including Mexico. Which brings us to the European Union. And they are going to transform the energy system by giving all of their resources to China. in order to make this climate resilient investment for China to build their infrastructure and control it. Now, what is all this doing to our planet? I got to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of tree huggers. I don't believe that the sky is falling because I drive an SUV. I like my SUV and I like driving it. But there is an impact in this, folks. So let's check this out, the dark legacy of China's drive for global resources. And this was just from March 28, 2017. As China pursues a startling array of energy, mining, logging, agricultural, and infrastructure projects on virtually every continent, it is having an unprecedented environmental impact on the planet. The country's international resource push began in earnest in 1999, when China's Going Global strategy liberalized investment policies and provided financial incentives to encourage overseas investments and contracts. China's most profound environmental impacts revolve around its drive to acquire minerals, fossil fuels, agricultural commodities, and timber from other nations. This often involves deals to build large-scale roads, railways, and other infrastructure to move natural resources from interior areas to coastal ports for export. Even in the remote interior of the Congo Basin, Chinese companies are heavily involved in road construction, mining, and logging projects. And that brings us to InfraGard, because if China is going to strip our land, possibly yours and mine, who knows, by eminent domain, who knows? If that happens, people are going to get angry and be in the streets. So that's where InfraGard comes in, and it reminds me of what happened in Oregon with Killed Finicum. And that brings us to a report that was done in 2008 on InfraGard. Let's watch this.
More than 23,000 representatives of private industry are working quietly in collaboration with the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. This according to an exclusive report in the Progressive magazine. The business leaders form a group known as InfraGard that receives warnings of terrorist threats directly from the FBI before the public does. In return, they provide information to the government. According to one whistleblower, the FBI has given members of InfraGard permission to shoot to kill in the event of martial law. Matt Rothschild is the reporter who broke the story.
Thanks for having me on, Amy.
Can you talk about InfraGard and what this program is all about?
Yeah, it was formed in 1996 by the FBI. It's an FBI program that works directly with businesses across the country. More than 350 of the nation's 500 Fortune 500 companies are involved in it. There are now 86 chapters of InfraGard. And the FBI and now Homeland Security are working with these local chapters, statewide chapters, and they have meetings. They have these secretive meetings around the country, and at some of these meetings, the FBI and the Homeland Security agents tell business people what their responsibilities are during times of an emergency or martial law. Well, Amy, it's interesting. A friend of mine who works in radio told me about it because I had been on his show talking about the May 9th, 2007 National Security Directive that George W. Bush had issued, that National Security Directive on national continuity policy. Bush gives to himself the power to control the whole government and the responsibility to take care of our Constitution, if you can believe that, given what he's done to our Constitution so far, in times of an emergency. And in that document, that May 2007 document, Bush talks about the need to work in times of an emergency with private sector actors. So I was on his show, Lee Rayburn's show, talking about this, and after the show he said, you've got to listen to something we just heard from a whistleblower who told him he was a member of this organization, InfraGard, that I'd never heard of, Amy. And it's been kind of hidden in plain sight there because you can go find out about it at www.infragard.net. You need the WWs for some reason. I talked to him I took careful notes. He described a meeting at a place where Homeland Security and the FBI were giving a talk to maybe 30 people. I took the information back. I called around to where the meeting was held. I talked to other InfraGard members who confirmed that that meeting actually had taken place and that there were FBI agents there and a Homeland Security agent there. And so I was beginning to believe what this guy said, and I do believe what he said because he has no motive to actually tell me this. He was a member of InfraGard. He showed me his little InfraGard card with his email address on it and with the emergency numbers of Homeland Security and FBI on the back in case of emergencies. And so I tried to find other people and did manage to find other InfraGard members who would talk to me about this emergency preparedness exercises that the FBI and Homeland Security has been conducting with these 23,000 business people around the country, and one other member of InfraGard confirmed to me that she had actually been at meetings and participated in meetings where the discussion of lethal force came up as far as what business people are entitled to do in times of an emergency to protect their little aspect of the infrastructure.
But just to clarify, Matt Rothschild, who exactly is empowered to shoot to kill if martial law were declared? The business leaders themselves?
The business leaders themselves were told, at least in this one meeting, that if there is martial law declared or if there's a time of an emergency, that members of InfraGard would have permission to protect, whether it's the local utility or, their computers or the financial sector, whatever aspect of the infrastructure they're involved with, they'd have permission to shoot to kill, to use lethal force to protect their aspect of the infrastructure, and they wouldn't be able to be prosecuted, they were told. And the FBI director said, "You're our first line of defense." That's what he told these business people. This is a secretive organization. They're not supposed to talk to the press. You need to get vetted by the FBI before you can join it. They get almost daily information that the public doesn't get, and then they have these extraordinary, really astonishing powers being vested in them by FBI and Homeland Security. Shoot-to-kill powers. I mean, this is scary stuff.
Kurt Haugen, CEO of Escuro Group, how does he fit into this story?
This is a business person in Wisconsin who I called up and who identified himself after I asked him whether he was an InfraGard member. He said yes. He said he was a former FBI agent. And he loves InfraGard. He thinks it's a great organization because he says it's all about who you know, and if you're involved with InfraGard, you can really get that public-private partnership going. For them, private-public partnership means working the private sector and the FBI, getting these daily feeds of secretive information and being able to go back and forth on some encrypted, message board or something. And he said, I asked him point blank after he was boasting about what a great organization InfraGard was, I asked him, well, what about this use of lethal force that I've heard that Homeland Security and FBI tell you members of InfraGard you can use in times of an emergency? And he said, well, I can't really comment about that. But of course, if someone's trying to break into your home, you have the right to defend yourself.
As you're probably already thinking, InfraGard is the most frightening and fascist thing you've ever seen. It puts corporations in control of our country. So, folks, I'm convinced, and I have been convinced since Killed Finicum was killed, that InfraGard is who killed him. I believe they have mercenaries. I did a video last year, and I'd like you to see a portion of it.
Nick. I, for one, am sick of being spied on. This is a great day for me personally.
Okay, so you have that there. Now I'm going to go a step further and show you a video of a little bit more that he did. He actually gave serial numbers out that were on those video cameras to the reporters there.
Do you believe that would you like to come and get these numbers here and trace them down, sir? You're a part of the press. Get your job done. Let's do it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so he gives the press the numbers so they can trace it down and take care of that. So I was given this information by YouTuber John Brown, and it's very interesting. This is posted by Becky on the Voice of Idaho, and it's about the smart grid system. It goes on to say SCADA is the acronym for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Device. SCADA systems are the interface devices between hardware and software systems. And it goes on to say that the Meyer occupiers thought that it was the government that was spying on them, but really it was a non-governmental organization that was not a part of the American government. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are being spied on by non-governmental agencies, okay, NGOs, that are not owned by Americans. And as you can see, what I didn't say in the video, but I have highlighted, because the government and utility companies have a public-private partnership for surveillance of the citizenry as well as the electric transmission grid. Public-private partnership is just a warm and fuzzy way of saying fascist. She goes on to say that fusion centers are collection and command and control centers at the national level. The Total Information Awareness System, TIA, brought to you by DARPA or ARPA or whatever they are calling themselves, because it seems like every time we catch on to what they're doing, they change their name. Isn't that the way it goes? So anyway, it's the system of systems that was designed to provide government access to the data in all of the systems in the above graphic, which is all of our infrastructure. I'll let you see it. I'll try to enlarge it. So now a lot of things are starting to make sense with me, with InfraGard and Jade Helm as well. I mean, now it does make perfect sense. I think that Jade Helm is the preparations for China coming in and drilling for oil, as well as heading up the building of the infrastructure. Americans will be doing all the work, but the people who will be in charge will be the Chinese. And I do feel that Jade Helm was a type of artificial intelligence that in 2015 they did a practice run with to see how it will work out. And I think that that type of artificial intelligence that was used for Jade Helm will be used to run the smart grid. And it says down further in this article, Jade is an AI quantum computing technology that produces holographic battlefield simulations and has the ability to use vast amounts of data being collected on the human domain to generate human terrain systems in geographic population-centric locations to identify and eliminate targets, insurgents, rebels, or whatever labels can be flagged as targets in a global information grid for network-centric warfare environments. And this global information grid for network-centric warfare environments just described the grid that's going to be our energy grid, because it's going to supply us with everything. So that type of structure, this huge grid that China's building, will have to have an AI quantum computing technology that is cognitive and intuitive. Now, down further it says here, the rapid weaponization of drones, with thousands now taking over the skies, was just the beginning. Along with coordinated efforts with human military teams, the AI computers are already being rolled out for the battlefield. In a short time, weaponized robots will join them, and autonomous learning thinking computers will thereafter put humans out of the loop of decision making and take lives into their own hands. Wouldn't that be very interesting for that to happen in the smart grid? I believe that's the plan. And we'll go to another article quickly. Anything you can do, AI can do better, making infrastructure smarter. That's from September 2016. Data flows and artificial intelligence are changing the globalized supply chain by sending data around the world. Using the cloud as the data transport method requires more efficient data acceleration. AI is infiltrating many places, and it's not just about replicating human performance and taking jobs or streamlining processes. It also helps make technology smarter. Artificial intelligence can be used for predicting software failures, detecting cyber security issues, creating super programmers, making sense of the Internet of Things, and managing robots and data centers. So not only is Jade and Jade Helm artificial intelligence, but our infrastructure, the smart grid that's being built right under our noses, and it's actually the biggest secret on the planet, is going to be run by artificial intelligence. That's something you'll have to think about, something that I've been thinking about. So the next thing I want to touch on is Russia. Now, Russia has a part to play in this as well. And I know the Russia record is broken and being repeated often, but Russia does have a role to play in this. And I've got to say, the role is mainly financial. And they are doing some things with the elections, I believe, around the globe, but the reason is for financial gain. And we'll get into that in part 3 when we talk about the financial aspect of this and how China became so rich. Who made them so wealthy? So look out for part 3 of Feeding the Dragon.